Welcome back, everyone. My name is Amir. I take care of the EdTech business for AWS for North and East India. For this session, for this next session, Scale for Impact, Transforming the Way EdTech Reaches Students with AWS, I am pleased to announce Irshad Chauhan, who is the Senior Solution Architect with us for our EdTech segment.
So, good evening, everyone. Now we will start. The timer is started. Okay. So, thank you for joining this session. My name is Irshad Chauhan. I am Senior Solutions Architect here at AWS. And I work most of the education customers across India. And today, we are going to talk about how EdTechs are transforming with AWS to create a scalable solution for the impact of students. So today I'm going to talk about so I work across multiple edtechs, as well as in my past I've worked across large enterprises as well as the startup. So from my personal experience meeting all these hundreds of startups and enterprises, my objective today is come up with how to speed with scale. We all can scale with the modern complex solutions which are available at the fingertips. But today's my objective is to what are the things which is needed to scale with speed, and that's my objective for today. And I will cover some of the theory part of it, and along with me there are friends from the EdTech communities which have been joined by me, Mr. Devesh Mishra, CTO PhysicsWala, as well as Mr. Chandan Singh, Chief Product Officer at Adda 24/7. They are also going to talk about their unique, interesting journey on with AWS and how they have created this scalable solution here at AWS. So, I have picked up 3 pointers in no particular order. These are not the only thing which is needed, but these are some of the things which I found which requires if you need a speed while if you have to scale your solution. So, number 1, embrace failure. Don't think if it haven't hit you as of now, it is not going to hit you, let's say, later. Right? So that's one of the things which actually always causes a trouble. We always undermine the error or a failure and see it could be a once in a time job, right? It could be, let's say, you are just not able to scale a server when it is actually need to be done, right? So those are the things which is needed, and one of the things to basically this type of problem, the solution is actually to work with the automation, right? So there are 2 things which we need to think about. How to reduce both the cost aspect of the solution as well as the time aspect of the solution, and how you can use automation to actually reduce both of this. So there are 3 ways what you can do, as I talked about, right? Especially the customer. Okay, how many of you here are actually having 1,000 daily active users on your platform? Okay, and hands down if you are, can you please raise your hand? And how many of you are actually having more than 10,000 daily active users on your platform? Nice. Okay, now how many of you are having 1 lakh daily active user on your platform? Okay, nice, nice. So I'm seeing the hands actually goes down, but these are the people actually to whom you can connect, right? And that's one of the mantra which we have today as part of these networking sessions, that please at least save 1 new contacts in your mobile phone, right? So so that you can always collaborate as a community and help each other out how you can scale these solutions. So one of the things what we provide here is with AWS, what you can do is, instead of working on a vertical solution or basically a solution which can only scale vertically, think about horizontal scaling. And there are many services like auto scaling group, managed services which helps does all the heavy lifting in the back end, creating this complex configuration for you. You can do with a very ease. These solutions get deployed across multiple availability zones and scales automatically based on the configuration which you select, right? Many of the edtechs especially and the other customers invest heavily in terms of creating the content for your students and for your learners. And we actually statistically working with multiple customers, how to protect these data, right? What happens if somebody who have access to it but accidentally deletes the copy, right, in your S3 bucket or any of your storage? Or what if you get into a ransomware attack, right? So always keeps the snapshot backup for all of your data, including even the object which you are storing on, let's say, S3 or the other aspect. And last but not the least is the log everything and measure it, right? So there are many times we have the issues, outages, downtime in our application or platform, but we are failed to find out why it is happening, right? When you actually connect to DevOps engineer or developers, it's like, I don't know what had happened in this. The forensics of that is actually lies on if you can simply enable the logs, right? So that's one of the very key pointer that you should actually enable logs at every level. It could be your system metrics like CPU utilizations and others. It could be your application log, and it could be your network flow log, right? And with these data, you can create the benchmark and KPIs which you would like to understand out of the system. A very simple, like how much of your data traffic is actually coming from the IP addresses which are abused in nature. Like you can very easily do that if you simply enable a VPC flow log and get that direct reports in the guard duty. Or there could be many other application level example which you can actually cover out of that. So always log everything and measure it, right? With respect to the KPI which you can set up for your application. How many users are coming, whether you are actually having that, right? That way. So we talked about embracing the failure. What happens next? Architecture which is unpredictable is very difficult to scale, right? And that's what we talk about here. At a one time, if all people are coming at a window, they are not able to purchase the ticket, or it takes very much of a chaos which happens at the system. Similarly, if you go to McDonald's or other fast food centers, you simply put up your order and you get a ticket number, right? And once your order is done, you will get a notification. I call it pull architecture versus push architecture. Like, why create a complex query in the system which actually hang your system altogether? Why not prepare that data in advance and serve it with a simple query? Why to create a complex API which does 5 jobs at once, right? Which take, let's say, 45 seconds just to do a single job. Why not break it off into multiple steps and notify the user when it is actually done? Right? So these are some of the principles which we always pick up as asynchronous architecture or an event-driven architecture. AWS come up with lot of managed services like simple queue services, AWS Lambda, SNS notification, or the triggers. For example, if you would like to build up a simple architecture where if I can take a photo of an object, it should run a machine learning on it and identify which person it is, or identifies the object out of it. At the same time, you also want to create a thumbnail of it so that you can put it in your LMS system. Both of these together can be simply done. You put your object in S3, use an event notification, which can trigger 2 parallel processes with 2 different serverless functions. And that will actually that actually can trigger the other systems of your nature. For example, your database, your LMS APIs, or whatnot. Right? So with cloud, consider these services if you have to build on-premise with the high scalability and high availability, it costs a lot. Any of you who are from the enterprise, setting up an event bus in the company or on-premise data center, or let's say on simple EC2, is very complex in nature, right? And that's where most of the players were used to come. Now this is serverless, and you just pay by the fraction for this. And last, from my side as a third point, is the immutable infrastructure. So immutable infrastructure is, in a simple term, you think about it this way, that for deployment, for monitoring, and for configuration, you should not go inside the machine. Basically, no SSH, no RDP access to the machine. You don't do any updates in the live system, right? It solves 2 bigger problems. One, especially a developer's dilemma. It works on my machine, why it is not working in production? Right? We all face, and even the business people faces that as a hearing from our side. Another, it removes the scare of, I can't touch production right now. It's, let's say, middle of the exam or something else, right? So to come out of this, it's basically how you do it. You don't do anything on the live system. Always create a new copy of machines or your infrastructure. If you're running, let's say, 4 EC2 already for this application, it already provisions a new separate 4 dedicated machines for you. You deploy that new solution onto those new machines. Then you test it out either automation or manual, right? Once you are done with this, you move it to production, but you don't actually change it right away, okay? Then simply you shift the traffic from the live to this newly deployed infrastructure. And once you are done with it, you test it, and if it is working fine, you keep it as is and remove the older one after some period of time. And if not, you can very easily fail back to the original system which was earlier there. It gives you a very high availability as well as even your low maintenance downtime. This goes hands in hand with infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as a code is actually where your entire infrastructure, what's your database configuration, what your machines are, what's your configuration for the cloud, memory, everything goes just as a script, which you can actually print out on a paper, but best resides in a GitHub, right? And you can carry it everywhere. Beauty of that is you can actually run a lot of security checks and other, let's say, best practices checks on that code itself, rather than running it on a live infrastructure, right? And these are the practices which helps you scale quite fast, because it removes you from the scare of how to touch a production system and how to make changes, right? So with this theory from my side, now I would like to invite Mr. Devesh Mishra. He's the CTO of PhysicsWallah, and I think most of us have heard or at least watched some videos on YouTube of Alak sir, right? He's going to talk about how they have built India's largest single live classroom, which serves a lot of students. Over to you.
Cool. Thank you, Rishad. So yes, PhysicsWallah. So let's first start with me, like who am I, right? My name is Devesh Mishra, and currently I'm CTO at PhysicsWallah. And I am one of the initial member of PhysicsWallah, engineering tech team. And I joined PhysicsWallah as an intern back in 2017. And since then, I have contributed in several areas or several verticals of PhysicsWallah, particularly in like building from scalable, highly scalable system to cost-effective digital class. So yeah, that's about me. And talking about PhysicsWallah. So PhysicsWallah is, we are currently targeting 9th to 12th class students who are preparing for NEET and JEE exam. And we are providing live class solution and sync and async content to those students, and cost-effective and solution, right? Talking about the PhysicsWallah, we are India's, one unicorn company, and we have 5 million plus downloads on Play Store. We have average 1.5 hours of watch time of user, and yes, and we are currently handling 800K to 1 million daily active users on our platform. So this is about PhysicsWallah. Apart from providing digital solution, we are also into offline vertical also, like as Vidyapeeth and semi-offline vertical also as Pathshala, and we are seeing very good response from students. So to build a good organization, you have to have some fundamental pillars, right? They will help you to build a great organization, right? For example, at PhysicsWallah, we follow these 4 pillars. The first one is students, right? You're gonna need someone to consume your content. And at PhysicsWallah, what we say, अगर आप हैं तो हम हैं, students हैं तो PhysicsWallah है, अगर otherwise नहीं. The second one is technology. Obviously, you are building EdTech, you're gonna need technology, right? Otherwise, there won't be EdTech. And the third thing is faculty. So at PhysicsWallah, through PhysicsWallah, we try to make education, to provide quality education to the students, and to make for that we have to standardize the teaching, right? Through PhysicsWallah, what we did, we make teaching standardization using technology. And the last one, quality and affordability, right? So why we need affordability and quality, right? If we talk about like our students, they're majorly from tier 2, tier 3 cities, like where you barely find any offline institute, right? So for that to reach, and they can't afford like expensive courses and everything, but they want to prepare for NEET and JEE exam. So क्या कहते हो, राजा का बेटा राजा नहीं बनेगा, right? We have like from physics wala, any student can start preparing for JEE and NEET exam in less than 4,000. And our vision is to provide quality education at minimum or no cost, right? We have free courses. Students can we have free courses on YouTube. We have free courses on physics wala digital lab also. And our mission is to reach 250 million young minds by 2025. So this is the growth of our YouTube channel. So back in 2017, when we started this YouTube channel, we were at 3,089 subscribers only. And if I combine today, like we have multiple YouTube channels at Physics Wala. If I combine all the subscribers, we have 15 million plus YouTube community. Last year we had 10,000 selection JEE and NEET, and this year JEE only we had 15,000 plus selection, yes. And now let's get back to like how we build India's largest live class, right? So, to build such a huge tech or to serve million daily active users, you're gonna need reliable or scalable architecture, right? So what we use for that? So this is the standard architecture that we use to serve serve our sync content to our users. So pretty much the standard architecture what YouTube provide for live stream. We have done like custom configuration, and we tested this particular infra with different parameters to achieve such scale. So this that's the same. That's architecture. So we start with the very basic camera, and we have a setup, OBS setup in every studio. Then we are using RTMP protocol to push the packets to the Media Live, and then Media Live transcode that packets into multiple bit rates, and it's provided to media packages. And then media packages uses JIT packaging just give me 1 second, guys. So media packager help us to build, help us to transform these media packages into HLS and dash video formats, so that we can provide these consumable formats to students. And obviously, we're gonna need some sort of content delivery network to handle the masses, right? So for that, we are using Amazon CloudFront. The same video, in case if user miss our live class, the same video he can consume as a video on demand. So for that, we are using S3 and the same CloudFront content delivery network we are using to serve our students. And so that's how we connect our awesome teachers to our awesome students. And what's the best part about this architecture? So we have 24 studios across India, and we can deploy the same architecture to all these 24 studios within a single click. And why? Because we follow, at Physics Wala, we follow infra as a code. Like we use CloudFormation template to build this whole architecture, so that we can deploy the whole architecture in just a single click. And yes, so when you build such massive architecture and you deal with massive scale, obviously there will be some learning, right? So these are our 4 major learnings. Log everything, right? So understand your customer, like what devices they are using, right? What resolution they are consuming, what's their favorite resolution, and optimize your content accordingly, right? build like dashboard for media services. Like you have to understand the content you are serving. What are the 4xx rate, right? What are the 5xx rate? And keep optimizing your infra and keep reducing your 4xx rate and 5xx rate, right? And always review and optimize your workflow configuration and test. So what I mean by test. So at physics wala, as we are targeting very high scale, so we always ensure कि whatever we are pushing to production, we know what our upper limit. Always know your upper limit, that this number is your always limit. So always load test or performance test your infra to serve masses, right? And always design it for failure. Obviously, whatever architecture, it's like you have to ready with the failure. Like, what if कि अगर studio's internet goes down, right? There has to be some backup plan, right? And keep experimenting and innovating, right? So when I say keep experimenting and innovating, we like always try like different bit rate, different segment rate, different GOP rate. So to reduce your like so to reduce the data rate, like we at physics wala we are keep trying ki how much content we can fit into 1.5 GB of data, right? So yeah, these are the learning, and here we are. On 20th July, we hit the like 1.21K lakh student within a single class. So obviously, when you hit such scale, there are other infra, like they are also gonna be impact, right? So at that time, we had like 400K requests at our API gateway, and we have major and media package. So we just serve 700 requests only from media package. Rest all served by the CloudFront itself. And these are the like favorite resolution in student used to watch, like 30% from 720p and 43% of them are 240. And thank you everyone for being a good audience. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Devesh. And yes, it was awesome. While working with the team, we spent, I think, 3 weeks on figuring it out, how to build those dashboard KPIs which you're talking about. The next interesting story I wanted to talk about is from the Adda 24/7. And for this, I would like to invite Mr. Chandan Singh. He is the Chief Product Officer at Adda 24/7, and he is going to talk about how they have built the scalable entrance exam platform. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, AWS team, for inviting me. And first of all, congratulations to PW team to achieve that great fit. And being from the same industry, I can totally understand what it takes to build that kind of scalable platform for live classes. So just a brief intro about me. So I did my BTech in Computer Science from ITBHU and MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. I've worked with multiple sectors like logistics, jobs industry, insurance, and finally with EdTech. So I've been working with Adda 24/7 for the last 3.5 years. Just a bit brief about the company. So we are the leader in government test prep segment of EdTech. We have been largest test prep platform in India. And we are rare breed of, I would say, startups who are profitable along with PW. And our most of the user base, like more than 85% user base come from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And in a true sense, like we are building for Bharat because for us, like each and every aspirants are very, very important even at the village level. So that's the reason we have put it here. And just moving to a product bit, like in education industry, typically you need some kind of motivation and discipline from the user, right? So you try to build and try to give as much rewards to the user for any kind of study activities. That is what we have tried to build a gamified system so that user will also get those kind of reward coins and use it for other purposes in the system. As I told, like we are a profitable industry. And one of the reasons because our most of the user base comes organically. They come from the blogs which we have written. They come from the YouTube channels. So we have multiple YouTube channels. and we are the largest YouTube community in the EdTech segment, in the government job EdTech segment. Yeah, so coming to the vision part, so we have like three important pillars for the organization. One, which I already told about, like focusing into tier 2 and below market. Second one is the affordability, and third one is the vernacular language, right? So if I just talk about the affordability, like we are almost 1/5 of the cost to what our competition charges. And that's where like scale is very important. Whatever we try to do for scale. And that economies of scale try to give us the cost benefit and give us the affordable product for our consumer. And if you see the number, this definitely talks about the scale, right? We have got like more than 25 million monthly active users. We have got more than 12 million app installs as of date. We have more than 25 million YouTube subscribers giving like roughly 180 million views. So this is the scale which we are talking about. Now, yeah, I mean, now the topic where like we are here. So I think Deves has talked about the live class. And since we are fundamentally a test prep company, so I'll talk about the test. On Adda 24/7 application on a daily basis, roughly 1.5 lakh users submit tests. But of course, that is not concurrent. This is distributed throughout the day, right? And roughly around 1,000 users submitting tests at the same time, but even not for the same test, right? Because they might be submitting 10 different tests, but concurrent, right? So when we had to run some kind of scholarship test or some kind of all India mock test, and we felt this challenge that all the users are submitting the test or viewing the result at the very same time, right? So that gave us the problem statement that can we build a scholarship test platform which can scale up to 200 times what we are doing at this moment of time, right? So basically the figure is roughly around 50,000 users. Can we build a concurrent system where 50,000 users can submit the test at one point of time and can view the result at one point of time, right? So before moving to the tech architecture part, let me just go through the product flow a bit so that at least it will be easy to comprehend for everyone. So here, like on the very first screen, if you see, before the actual scholarship test, we try to give the option for registration. So this gives us the idea how many users are going to appear for the test. And at the same time, it also gives us the data to whom we need to give the reminder notification, right? So this is the reason for taking the user data. User can also see the detail about what kind of test is there, what kind of reward structure will be there as part of scholarship test. Second, say when and one more important part in the third slide, there is an attempt window. So say if the exam is there for say 3 hours, right? We give the exam window as 4 hours. As I talked about, like most of the market segment is tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and a lot of network fluctuations are happening. So we give 1 hour additional window so that even if a user is joining a bit late, he or she can run through the whole test without any delay. But yeah, one thing which we have made that whenever you start, you will only get the 3 hours. It's not like you are getting 4 hours for the whole test. And once users attempt the test, then there is a whole test flow. You get questions, answer, you submit it, and then at the time of result, user can see on the same ticker view result, right? Just moving to the tech architecture part. So there are 3 core principles which we followed to solve this particular piece. One is the decoupled architecture, because we wanted, since there are so many entities along with users are involved, we wanted each and every entity should be decoupled so that, and they should be doing their job independently. Second, like going serverless wherever possible, so that since we're talking about scale, we should not overload the server where we are giving a bad experience to our end user. And third, caching at every layer, because there are a lot of information which we want to give it to user as soon as possible. So I think caching was very important. So these 3 core principles which we followed to build this particular system. Now the similar flow which I wanted to talk about. So of course, like there are a lot of AWS system which we are using to solve our particular problem. So there are three main steps. One is the start test. Then there is a submit test, and then there is a result view. So I'll just talk about these 3 pointers. So in the very first step, like when user is clicking on the attempt, like The request is going to the AWS Lambda function. There is some user validation happening through Redis, and it sends all the details to simple queuing services, SQS. And then SQS receives that messages and validates, and then create an auto submit job. So for example, if the test is happening, say the test start time is at 5 p.m., then auto submit job of test submission will happen at 8 p.m., right? And one more thing which we are doing, as I talked about, like once user register for any test, we also build a notification system, reminder notification system, right? And since user has already started the test, we don't need to send the notification to bring that user back on the application. And that's the reason we are also removing those set of users through another AWS Lambda function. So this was about the test start. During the test submission phase, it's very similar flow. It's just that there is one additional function which we can talk about here. So here also, like, the details are going to the SQS, and SQS receiving the test-related and the user-related information with us, and then saving all the details with the database and the Redis. And what we do, we finally, whatever the final test of that user data is there, for example, how many marks he or she has got, how much time user has taken, all the details along with that user data goes through S3. And this is the last part where users are actually receiving the information in terms of result, right? So here the request goes to AWS Lambda, and they try to fetch the detail from S3. And there is two important things. One is, like, you should not be getting the result before the result announcement time. So there is policy update written on top of that. And second, that user who is actually appearing for test should be the one who should be getting the result. So that's the reason of authentication which we are using CDN. So yeah, and other than that, of course, we are using CloudWatch to monitor everything. In the last month, we have got one use case where we have solved for 24,000 concurrent users to submit that particular exams. In the month end where we are trying to target SSC CGL exams, their possibility of getting more than 50,000 users also be there. So hoping to achieve that particular thing. So yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you. Especially when you are targeting tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 market, right? So we have an offline test activity happening on our platform. So what it does, whenever you are going to attempt any test, it downloaded locally in your phone, right? You can attempt the whole test without even internet. Just at the time of submit, you want that internet connection to send the data to server, right? So say you just need 1 minute of internet connection to download the data, internet off, uske baad you can submit the whole test after 3 hours and use the internet and go back to do that. So this is, we are following even for our normal test, not only for scholarship test. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other question? I think this question is again for Chandan.
Sorry, I could not get the question.
So question is actually that when a student submits exam, based on their demographics, whether they are from tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, do you see any correlation that tier 2 performs better or worse than the tier 3 student?
No, it's not like that, definitely, right? Of course, like if you see the resources available for, say, tier 1 sector versus tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, you have more resources available for tier 1, right, as compared to tier 4 location. So you'll see some pattern. They take time to understand. They ask very basic question in the beginning, but like they are as smart as tier 1 people. So eventually on the scholarship test, it is actually performed very equally. So that's not a problem.
Nice. And I think I just heard in one of the sessions that democratization of education is what all these edtechs are doing, right? The resources which were previously consolidated in just tier 1 cities, people used to travel to a particular city to get, let's say, this knowledge. Now my cousins are in tier 3 cities and they are getting, let's say, math tuition for MSc classes just sitting at home for 300 rupees. And I think that is awesome. So I think a huge clap for that for all the edtechs community which are doing it. So, okay, one last question. At the end, can we have a mic there?
Actually, this is a question for Chandan as well.
Chandan sir, I think you should be here only.
So you answered earlier something about the test where you're downloading the test, especially if your internet connection is bad, and then you can submit the test 3 hours later. Have you also had scenarios where maybe there are a lot of submissions happening at the same time, और उसकी वजह से जो है आपके events drop हो गए? And how have you handled that in your architecture?
Sorry, events. I think the last part.
Last part was.
So a lot of the events, जो भी आपके submission के events हैं, they are happening at the same time. उसमें से कभी ऐसा कुछ हुआ है कि maybe a question has got, like a response has gotten dropped,
Right.
maybe because again the internet connection was there and suddenly it's dropped, or maybe a question or two from whatever the question set is has gotten dropped. And how have you handled that in your architecture?
Yeah. So when we build that particular platform, we in fact face this situation, right? And you saw we have put one attempt window. So earlier this attempt window was exactly the same for the test window. So if it is 3 hours, then attempt window was also for 3 hours. So we gave it like a bit of additional time because we are seeing some fluctuation, right? But at the time of submission, same thing can happen, right? Say if internet is not there, your submission may get delayed and your marks and other things can miss, right? So what we did, we are not publishing the result immediately. So we have also put like couple of hour window for the result submission. So what we say that whatever you have done during the test window will be taken into account and will be applicable during your result. So say if test is finishing at 4 p.m., we are publishing the result at say 7 p.m. And whenever say if internet connection comes up for that user, we send that data between that time window, whatever user has done, to the server and do the calculation on top of that. Of course, there are certain cases where internet connection could not come even after result, right? So those set of individuals might miss the scholarship test.
And one more interesting thing what these guys did it, you don't have to actually manually submit. If time is up, it automatically submits on behalf of the students. So it keeps a copy, and then if internet is there in any window post that, it will automatically submit that. I think that's the last question which we can take up. That's it, offline architecture, and yes, then they send it with the asynchronous architecture built on AWS. Means offline cache and the mobile client as well, plus then they keep the result in the queue first, so that even if there's a server is crashing, it can still process it later. Yeah. So that way they are building at every level. Good point. So this is, you can get a lot of free courses. There are more than 3,000 plus courses available on awsskillbuilder.aws. I would suggest you can take a screenshot of this. And for certificate community, I would suggest you can scan this. There are a lot of free courses happens every month. If your team is actually trying to do certification, we provide a lot of free certification preparation kind of a thing, where you can validate your knowledge by attending those. I'll take that question post this. I'll just close this slides. Thank you all for joining this session.